Welcome to Legion Radio, a podcast about all things e-commerce, the official podcast of the private label Legion, hosted by Tim Jordan.
Hey everybody, it's Tim Jordan here with Legion Radio, the official podcast of the private label Legion. On the podcast, we talk all things e-commerce, specifically related to selling products and building your own brand. So today we have Joy Packard on the podcast with us. Joy, say hello.
Hi, everybody.
That was a really good hello. Great job. Best hello of the morning. So I met Joy Packard in Denver, wasn't it?
Yeah.
At a conference. And I'd kind of seen Joy around hanging out in social media, kind of running with some of the same circles that I'm somewhat associated with or running as well. And I kept hearing her name pop up. So I ran into her at a baseball game. It was actually at a Rockies game. And she and I got to talking and we kind of hit it off, I would say almost instantly. I walked away from a fairly short conversation going, man, Joy is cool. I need to spend some more time talking with her and picking her brain and figuring some things out from her. So eventually got a chance to do that, got to catch up. And I really feel like we have a lot of the same mindsets, kind of a lot of the same principles, and of course in the same context, which helps. So one of the reasons that I wanted to bring her on the show is, of course, she has some experience in e-commerce selling herself. She helps other e-commerce sellers, which is a tremendous asset because she can help take some of the lessons that other people are learning and apply them to ourselves, but also share them with you. Same thing I do. I learn from other people's mistakes and their successes. So Joy's got a plethora of that knowledge and that content to share. And the other thing is she thinks differently than I do, which is great. Nobody wants to listen to, Tim just, rinse and repeat constantly. So anybody that has different ideas, even conflicting ideas sometimes is a good thing because what we're doing here on the podcast and the private label Legion community is putting together as much content as humanly possible so that we can all share from it, we can all gain value from it, and we can apply different morsels and pieces of information to our own style of business because we're not all going to be the same. So Joy, go ahead and tell us kind of how you got started in e-commerce. Tell us a little bit about your background, kind of give us the story leading up to where you're at now.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me. By the way, I'm so honored to be here with you. Just like you said, meeting you in Denver was amazing. I came home and told my husband, I said, man, I love the conference, but one of my very favorite parts of the conference was being at a Rockies game at a beautiful stadium and meeting this incredible man who has some amazing ideas. And so I am so honored to know you and to be able to be here to share ideas with you on your amazing podcast. And so, yes, I always love to tell people I'm a mom of 8. I'm a grandma to 9. And the reason why I like to start that way is because right off the bat, you guys can take off any excuses on why or why not you cannot do this business. And so I started on my e-commerce journey about 5 years ago. I was probably about 8 to 9 years ago. I started on the online journey where I just knew that ever since I was about 12 years old, I worked for my parents in their doctor's office. And then I said, when I turned 16, I'm just like, I got married at 18. So I got married at a very young age. And I knew right off the bat that I did not want to be at a 9-to-5 job. I don't like people telling me what to do. So I started the online path and, started with just typing into Google how to get started online. And that's what began my journey. And then as all of you entrepreneurs know, you get on a list and then you get these, opportunities that can, let you have the chance to check them out and to see whether it's for you. And I remember about this time 5 years ago, I got an email and it was on an e-commerce course, and it was kind of a higher end, and I, more than I'm used to spending anyway. And so I talked it over with my husband. I said, I think this is really what I want to do. And he's like, go for it. And so I did, and I've never looked back since. It's been the one thing for the last 5 years that for the first time in my online journey that has stuck. And I enjoy it. I love it. And so that began this whole journey of Amazon and beyond of what I do. And so it's been an exciting ride. It's been something that allows me to be my own person, my own boss, my own time is what I was going for. And, I wanted to be with my kids. I wanted to be at their baseball games. I didn't want to be, stuck somewhere and missing on life raising my kids because someone was telling me you have to be here when and where. And so that's how I began, with e-commerce and starting. So,
All right, so let me dive in. I have a couple questions here. So one thing is, one thing that I push in whether you're selling on Amazon or e-commerce in general, kind of the entrepreneurial thing, is a lot of people think that it's not a real business. A lot of people treat it like a get-rich-quick scheme or a side hustle, which it can be a side hustle, but to do it well, it's not easy. It takes a lot of work. And any startup business, whether it's e-commerce or brick and mortar or consulting or whatever you're doing, takes a lot of work up front. So I kind of have a hard time explaining to some people the my answer to the question I'm about to ask you. And what you said was you enjoy this lifestyle, you enjoy this profession because it gives you more time with family and it gives you more freedom with your kids. But on the other hand, it takes a phenomenal amount of time for a startup company. And that's one thing that I struggle with. I have emails coming at me 24 hours a day. I have business going on in China constantly. And, I adopted this lifestyle largely for the freedom, but sometimes I feel like it's not any more free. It's a startup business where we're hustling. It's a 24-hour grind. So how do you make sure that you are achieving that extra family time and that extra freedom while having to put in the extra work and legwork that any startup company is going to require?
that is a great question. And it's actually the very thing that I speak on stages. Last year, I spoke at maybe 10 events, most of them e-commerce, some of them self-development. And I'm not sure if you want to get into this now. And if not, and if you want to wait till later, that's totally fine.
No,
But
go for it.
okay, basically, the way that I live my life, and as I said at the beginning, I have 8 kids. So these people that say, well, I don't have enough time and freedom and all this kind of stuff yet because I'm having to do this or whatever. And so this is where I come in and tell you guys, I outsource. Outsourcing is key. It's like I don't know how I would actually do what I'm doing without outsourcing. And so when people ask me, how in the world do you do everything that you're doing, not just e-commerce, but you're traveling, you're doing Shopify, you're doing wholesale, you're doing private label, you're going to China. And the answer and key, and I say almost like without question, that if you do not outsource in this business, then you're basically getting another job. You're not getting a lifestyle. And what I go for and what I would hope for people who are listening is that you're not getting into this to say, awesome, this is neat. This is, you know, everything that I want, but now I'm working 60 hours a week instead of 40. And so that's where I tell you, okay, even if you have to start with one part-time, and this is my niche, this is my baby, this is what I mean, anybody who knows me, this is what I know like the back of my hand because I live it. Everything that I ever talk about, it's not stuff that I just look on internet, read about and say, "Oh, that sounds cool, I'm going to talk about it." It's because I do it and I live it, and this is what completely will let you live the freedom lifestyle that you want. And that is, putting everything on paper, putting your business on a mind map, so to say, and then deciding exactly where you want to tackle it, what you want to do, and then breaking that up and saying, what are the tasks that only I can do? And then put it on over here. And what are the tasks that I can outsource? I mean, I outsourced cleaning my house. I don't even know the last time I touched a vacuum, to be honest with you, because, I felt guilty about it at first, but my husband's like, honey, you have proven, your wifehood, your motherhood. And I'm like, I know, but I feel guilty. So just like that in your business.
I'll give you an example of that. I used to own a landscaping company. That was one of my first companies. So I have more grass cutting and landscaping equipment than most people do. And we have someone that cuts our grass at the house. And my father-in-law gives me a hard time. He says, you can't get out there and cut your grass. I said, well, I can, but here's the deal. I can pay a certain amount for them to just handle it. And I said, or it would take me 3 hours a week. And what is my time worth? And
Exactly.
If my time is only worth, let's say $20 an hour, that's $60. Well, I can have my grass cut for $60. And then it's done during the week when I'm at the office, and on the weekend, I'm not out there, messing around cutting my grass. So there are a lot of things I can do, but when it comes to outsourcing, like you said, it's not just hiring someone to do something so you don't have to, but it's buying back your time. And there's a lot of wise people that I get to spend time with that tell you the only thing that you can't get more of in life is time. So
Absolutely.
I think that applies not just to balancing family, like you're talking about, but also scaling up your business, because every person that you add is a force multiplier. So what I want to do real quick, I want to get more into how you outsource in just a second. I want to get there. I know we're got kind of running down a rabbit trail. Right now, you kind of explained how you got started in this business. I want to go back to that for just a second. So when you started in the e-commerce world, where you started learning, you said you Googled it. Did you specifically start by looking up how to sell on Amazon, or did you look up how to sell e-commerce, or kind of give me a little more information on how you got down that path?
No, actually, I just Googled how to make money online with the keywords.
Got it.
And I never dreamed that I would be doing e-commerce. In my head, I always thought affiliate marketing, creating my own blog or something like that to that extent. And I know that people can make money that way, but it just wasn't like very exciting to me. And for me, I don't want to do things. I'm just that type of person where if I'm going to do something, then I want to be passionate about it. I want to love it. And I know that, we all have to go through a stage probably that there's times where we have to do our jobs. And I get that. I mean, sometimes that's what you have to do. And then you're trying to, why, especially while you're trying to figure out what that is. So no, that's how I started as far as trying to figure out that path. And then I got approached, of course, because I was on several probably lists of marketers. And then one of the marketers said, hey, this is what we're coming up with. And I thought, wow, I love to go shopping. I love to find deals. And it went hand in hand with what I loved. And it just took off from there. And it's just like I said, I haven't looked back since.
So was Amazon the first platform that you looked at selling on, or did you look at eBay and other stuff first and you landed on Amazon, or just kind of started that way for you?
I did some eBay selling before, but I can't stand eBay, to be honest with you. I just don't like it. It's just tedious. And so I never thought I would. I know one time, as far as how that tied in, as I remember now, is I had a bunch of stuff. We were doing a lot of moving at that time in our life. My husband's job was transitioning us. And so I had to do a lot of clearing. And I thought, man, this is good stuff, or some of this stuff is good. Some of it's brand new. I wonder if I could start selling this. And then I don't remember exactly how, but I do remember doing like a merchant fulfilled Amazon stuff. And I thought, how cool. I'm putting my junk online and people are buying it. And then that's when it tied in with that one email. And I think that that's what got me to say, wow, I put something online, someone actually bought it, and all I had to do was ship it out. And it was incredible. I thought, what a great concept, because I was, basically hanging on the coattails of Amazon, and still do as part of my business. I don't completely only sell on Amazon anymore.
Gotcha. So if you could go back to the moment when you realized that Amazon was a viable business opportunity for you and you needed to learn, if you could go back to that time, what would you do differently? Which translates into, what can you offer our listeners who are trying to learn this business a suggested path? I see a lot of people say, hey, all the information you could possibly want on YouTube. And other people say, hey, there's a lot of garbage out there. Pick a good course, because even if the information out there is free, it's more consolidated. What would you tell yourself going back to when you began, on the best way, not necessarily the cheapest or the most expensive or the fastest, but the most valuable way to learn this business?
I hear that a lot, Tim. And I was like, a lot of times people, and you know what? There is a plethora of information on YouTube. I mean, when my son was 8 years old, he learned how to, take apart his Xbox and put it back together and make it work. And that's great. And but here's the thing, and this is my own opinion. And I know some people have more time than money, and some people have more money than time. And eventually you want to get where you have more money than time. And, and I know we're not all there yet, but like as a newbie and beginning, I still would say YouTube videos are great, but here's the problem is you get on there and you might say how to start selling on Amazon. And then you get this slew of, all these different people and videos to start. And to me, what happens is it becomes overwhelming to you. So it overwhelms you to the fact where you're just like, what, that's just too much information. I don't want to do it that way. So I would say, just the way that I did it actually is I would recommend for you to start getting into some Facebook groups that are Amazon related, and maybe start getting the feel of the way people teach, like when I first met Tim, I knew, man, this guy, he knows what he just knows what he's doing. And I'm going to, I got into your group and I love your videos and your content. So I would say that you need to start familiarizing yourself with the wording, the jargon, the people. And, you will know this person, and, whoever, we all get that, what we call intuition, and we know who is going to resonate with us, and who resonates with me may not resonate with this person. And so we all have our different styles of how we want to learn. And we also have our different, I guess, feel of people who we are around. So I would say yeah, you can do some YouTube Googling, but I'm just saying that there's so much information out there. I would personally start with, if you're active you don't have to be active on Facebook. And even if you are not active, you can actually just create a Facebook account and just Google, or not Google, but Facebook search Amazon, e-commerce, whatever groups that you can find, and join a few. Like if you want to do retail arbitrage, you can say retail arbitrage groups or whatever. And don't join like 100 of them, because then you're getting into the YouTube idea. But you can choose, like 2 or 3, and then maybe you get to know the people in the group and say, I want what this person is doing, and then start following them. And then that's how I found my circle of influence. As far as when I got started, I knew eventually within a few months that I don't like this style of teaching of this person. So I'm going to just, for now, I'm going to just take that one off. So I would recommend to do it that way. I don't know if anybody teaches it that way, but that's how when I look back at my journey, that's how I would recommend it.
Gotcha. And then let's fast forward to what you're doing currently. I know that you are helping some people. I would consider you an influencer in the industry. And I know you just had a conference recently, your first conference / meetup. So aside from just your actual Amazon business, give me just the brief history on, or kind of the brief rundown on what else you have going on.
Okay. I'm like you, Tim. I have a lot of ideas, constantly in my head. And yes, you're right. A couple of months ago, at the end of April, I had my very first live event. It was Simple Zon Seller, and it was amazing. And so I never thought that I would see that day. But yeah, I basically, in a nutshell, what I do is I created a membership site from that event, because I was going to create an Amazon course to teach people. But I'm learning, as you know as well, that Amazon changes by the day, by the minute, by the hour, whatever, with their things. And I thought, well, why not just create something that stays current? So that has been something that I'm actually working on. I also basically, from the event, is who I was. I do retail, not all the time. I do retail, online, wholesale, Shopify, private label, been to China 4 times. And I also do personal development. I help people overcome their blocks. A lot of people get into this, even not just this business, but just in life. And so I do a lot of personal development videos you'll see on my Facebook Lives. I love helping people. And so those are the 2 routes. And I kind of sometimes have them hand in hand. I'm actually going to be coming up with my first personal development retreat. And so, yeah, and whenever people hear me say that about my e-commerce side, they're like, whoa, you are completely scattered. And that's not true. It's because every single one of those models has a virtual assistant that's helping in that, or a business partner, to where I'm focusing on what I want to focus on while all of those things are still going.
Gotcha. I've been really looking forward to this, because this is content that I need. And I think that anybody that is selling online, specifically private label, needs to understand the importance of outsourcing. And this information is extremely valuable to anybody in that scenario that's trying to grow their business. So, Joy, let's start with the first question, which I have here. What do you outsource? How do you pick which tasks to outsource? I assume that you create a list of task A through Z for a certain scenario, and then do you create a list and pick out piece to outsource, or how do you determine that workload?
It's a great question. I'm actually speaking at a live event here in Houston for someone else on this very topic this weekend, and it's something, like I say, that I live and breathe by. And so I tried many different methods. So I'm just going to basically share with you what I do. And it doesn't matter which one you use, but you can Google mind mapping. Have you ever done mind mapping, Tim?
I have never mind mapped.
Okay,
It would
awesome.
probably
This is going
scare
to
me.
change it
All
might
right.
scare you, but it will change your life.
I'm writing this down, mind mapping.
Yeah, I have to go and figure out which, I think it's called bubble.us is the one I use because it's free, but you can just Google mind map and you can, look and see which one resonates with you. And so what mind mapping does is it comes up with a central idea. Say that you say, I want to do private label with e-commerce. And so it starts with a little bubble. And so without any holds bar, I mean, you just start connecting little ideas that are in your head that have to do with that. So, for example, either going to China with Tim or, going to Alibaba or going to AliExpress or whatever site that you're going to do. And you just start writing down all the tasks that go with that one central idea. So I'm not going to go into 10 different things. So let's just say we're talking about private label. And so with private label, like I say, you just start thinking of every single task from sending emails or talking to the suppliers to, finding a product, all of that. Don't leave out anything. And, and for some of you who might feel more comfortable writing, that's fine. And then you can put it on this mind map. And then by the time you are done, your mind map will look basically like a tree. It's going to have a central idea. It's going to have little branches that have the different tasks that you have to give or that you have to personally do. So after you basically make your mind map, then you can decide on that mind. And, the mind map is movable. You can move the branches. You can, when you start thinking that, oh, this is a subcategory of that. So, to summarize that, you basically look at your mind map and say, what are the things that I want to do myself? For example, I don't let my virtual assistants talk to the suppliers. Why? Because number one, they don't understand them because they're from the Philippines. These people speak Chinese or, and the Chinese suppliers can understand English. And, so I feel like that's a decision for me. It's a money decision. I want to be the one to make that. I want to determine which product I'm going to buy. But things such as, here's software or, here's a method that I need you to help me find 100 private label ideas by the end of the month. That's something they can do. I don't need to do that. That takes up time. It's tedious. And or images. I don't want to create my images. I don't want to create my listings. These are just things that I personally don't have to do. I look at them when they're done. I don't just throw it up on Amazon or throw it up on my Shopify site, and I review everything they do. But finding products, images, creating listings, finding how many sellers are on Amazon. I have a spreadsheet that they give me every week, and it includes, a product idea, what it's selling for on Amazon, where I can buy it, and a store link of where, what the price is for, what my profit would be. How many, and just, and I can share that spreadsheet for whoever wants that, but that's just something that I came up with. I'm sure many people have something similar. And so those are tasks that, can you imagine if you as one person was doing, that would take hours of your time. What could you do with the 8 hours a day that these people are doing that? Well, you can develop, more ideas and niches and go to China. There's just things that you can do. So that's the very beginning stages of okay, these are the tasks that I'm going to outsource. These are the tasks that I'm going to do. And so you start with the tasks that you want to outsource and you say, all right, now I'm going to break this down to give to my virtual assistants.
And then once you've determined those tasks and you've determined that you're going to outsource a certain task, how do you train your virtual assistant for that?
Okay. Number one, I give them access to whatever course that I have. So for example, I have software and I say, to be honest with you, there's software that I personally don't even know how to use. I just say, here's my login, and I get permission from, the owner of the software. So they know this is not something I'm just sharing with 100 people.
Yeah.
This is my virtual assistant. You can see his IP is from the Philippines, and they're totally cool with it. And they're actually very appreciative that I'm honest in telling them that. And they're usually cool with it. And if they're not, then I'll just buy a second license or whatever. But I haven't had one owner of a software say, no, you can't do that, blah, 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 because they know. And so I'll give them the actual software that has videos that trains them. I actually, as I've been through this process over the 5 years, will make my own Jing video or my own, my own screencast videos or whatever software, Camtasia, that you're going to use to show them. Like if they don't know how to create a listing, I'll either find a video and have it in my library of arsenal so that if I ever lose these virtual assistants, I'm like, oh my goodness, now, all these years of training, like I have 4 virtual assistants and 2 of them have been with me from the start. And they're so, loyal and all that. But as I'm learning a tool or a skill, I will make a video or I'll find one and say, all right, I'm putting this in I have my own little, Joy Packard library of videos of training over the years. And I'm saying, this is how I want you to do this. So it's either giving them the actual course, giving them the actual software, if it has training videos. And they're very, very smart. I mean, I'm serious. They'll like I had to get my event page ready and, had to get all the, the affiliate stuff in there on the PayPal buttons on the page. And I was using Nanocast, which is, very, basically, it was something that was tedious. And I just said, I need this done and I don't know how to do this. Please go to Nanocast. They researched it all, let them do. That's what you're paying them for. You're paying them literally, let me see, $3 a day for 8 hours of their time.
Man, so I guess you don't necessarily have to train them. You just have to find the correct training to send to them, right, which is something that I struggle with because I feel like I should know how to do it. And if I know how to do it, then, I should be the one teaching them. But you're right. There are so many tasks out there that we don't have time to learn, or maybe we're just not going to be that good at it. Ultimately, I know that if I have a VA, which I do, that does HTML coding, I don't need to learn how to do HTML coding as long as he can get it done that works. But when it comes to more of like most of our listeners don't need an HTML coder. They need a virtual assistant for selling on Amazon or Shopify or something. So I guess that's really valuable information, is that I don't even have to know how to set up a listing or know how to run a Shopify store. I just need to find somebody else that can learn for me and then make sure that whatever training process I'm using can be duplicated, so that if you do lose that VA, you need to add another VA. The time that I spent finding the best training or the best courses to share with them, I'm not having to do that research again. I can kind of keep that tucked away in a file to either grow or replace the team or whatever I have to do. So that's good. That's good information. Thank you for sharing that. And
Sure.
How do you find your virtual assistants? I know there's a lot of agencies out there. I also know that you can do it independently. What do you suggest?
Well, what I've had luck with, and I go back to it over and over again, but I'll give a couple of different recommendations, especially for people who are starting out and they're like, I don't have a lot of money and I don't even know how to do this. So let's just say, okay, everybody has $5, right? Everybody, somewhere down the road to start your business. I don't care what people tell you, you're going to have to put some money into your business.
Yep.
So borrow it, whatever you have to do. So Fiverr.com, it's a simple, Fiverr.com. It's a simple way they can create your logo. They can, and I mean, with disclosure, not everything is going to be the best, but and it may not even be for this business. Like I use someone from Fiverr right now, because I have a podcast as well and they edit mine and it's awesome. I just found somebody, I got lucky. But for this, what I'm talking about, one of my very favorite sites, and before I go to that site, you can also go to sites like Upwork, or you can go to guru.com, so those are a couple of sites where you can pay people by the job.
Yeah, and those are kind of like task related, right? Like
exactly.
Okay.
But my very favorite site, and I have a complete training on a separate site about finding them. So, because I've actually had to do a training for this company one time and actually my actual event I did, and onlinejobs.ph. And, I know the owner, I've met him in person. He changed my life many years ago when I started my online business 8 years ago. I found him at a conference and I've never looked back on that as well. I mean, his whole thing is replacing yourself. Like what Tim was saying earlier, like what value do you place on your time by giving yourself that back? If I could have 20 me's, or however many me's you need to make your business model work. And so all of the VAs that I have found have been through that site. And here's the exciting thing. Once you find one, they usually have buddies. They have buddies that they can recommend to you. And that's how I found one of the most amazing virtual assistants that I have, who does graphics and website design, because, all that stuff, when I first started and I tried to do website design by myself, I remember being up at 3 a.m. I remember this day vividly and telling my husband, honey, look, I got the opt-in box finally on the page. And I'm like, I got this virtual assistant who can do that, like that. And I've learned to get out of my own way and realize there are people who do this and they're very good at it and very affordable. And so that is my favorite site that I would recommend. I know, like you say, Tim, there's several out there that are, and I know like even, I can rattle off names, but it's going to be too overwhelming for everybody. But that's where I would start. I mean, I would go possibly in that order, if you are just kind of wanting to get your feet wet, or, people who are in my membership site, I just tell them, if you have $100, hire somebody on online jobs part-time, 4 hours a day, and that's the way that you can start. $100 a month for 20 hours a week of time.
Yep. That's good.
Pretty good deal. Yeah.
I just hired a new guy recently from onlinejobs.ph. And what I like is you don't have to go through an agency. You're actually working with them. So I've used agencies before that like wanted to control communication. And I understand the reason they want to control communication. They want to make sure that
you stay on their platform.
and make sure they're doing a good job. They want to hold their employees accountable. But like I use WhatsApp, and
Yes.
one of the agencies that I used didn't want their employee communicating with me on WhatsApp. So we had to use Skype, which didn't really fit the rest of our work model. But one thing about onlinejobs.ph that they try to do, which is cool, is they have some sort of verification and validation process, it seems like, for the candidates. Is their identification accurate? Are these people who they say they are? And one thing that I've noticed, which is really cool, I didn't even expect, was most of the employees, you don't have to pay them up front. So they'll start working and they'll say, hey, pay me every 2 weeks or pay me every month, which is different than like a gig outsource thing. So that way, they're investing time in you before you pay them, which adds to me a little bit of credibility because they're not taking your money up front. And then maybe you find out they're not who they say they were, or, they can't do the job that you hired them to do. So onlinejobs.ph, to me, has been a really, really good experience. Now, let me ask you this question. This is one that I have a hard time with, and it's accountability, because I don't want to be the kind of guy that's breathing down somebody's neck all the time, right? I don't want to be a micromanager. I want to treat people like adults, let them do their job. But on the other hand, I had a wise employer once tell me you have to inspect what you expect. And, not only taking care of your business, making sure that things are getting done that are supposed to be, that your money's being used wisely, but also I found that even myself, when I was an employee, if I didn't have somebody kind of holding me accountable, I would get lazy and I would let things slide. So how do you balance, or not only how do you balance, but how do you hold your VAs accountable when you're working in different time zones and you're rarely seeing them in person without spending too much time yourself micromanaging, which defeats the purpose of outsourcing, or making them feel like, you're breathing down their neck? How do you handle all of that?
Great question. I'm always asked that. And this is the way that I do it. And it can be simple and it can be hard, however simple to hard you want to make this. When you're first starting out and you only had maybe one virtual assistant and you say, I don't want to do software, I don't want to do this. Okay, a simple email daily report. I say this and I say this till I'm blue in the face. You have to get a daily report every single day after their shift. My virtual assistants, of course, like you say, are in different time zones. I am very, I'm not like a Nazi and saying, you have to be here at this hours or whatever. I'm like, here are your tasks. If you can get this done. And, if you have any questions, they're always, when they're working, they're always on Skype or they're on Google Chat or both. And that way, like I usually catch them on the tail end of their shift or whatever times, like my 8 o'clock is their 8 a.m. So I usually work between 9 and midnight. So if I have things that I'm looking for, and I see their daily report, here's the thing too, is that daily report is super important because you need to see, I use something as simple as timetrek.com, TIMETREK. If you want to go, it's free. You can just tell them, I want you to download this time track feed. And what it does, because I find that you can go as, like I say, as Nazi as something like timedoctor.com, where it's actually taking screenshots of their screen every few. I feel like that's, for me, like was imposing on their privacy too much, because literally I'm paying $2 a day, not $2 a day. I'm paying, what did I tell you guys? It's $200 a month to $250 a month. So whatever you divide that by, I don't know, is that whatever the math is. Less than $8 a day, roughly. And so I figured for $8 a day, I mean, a cost of a meal at a restaurant or whatever. So what they do on this time track is they tell me exactly what they did for the day and how long it took. The time track will show you 0.5. It took a half an hour for this. And because one time, they one of the ones that I was testing out one time, they sent me a time track and it said 8 hours to do whatever task it was. And I remember I said, what? I mean, it's taking you 8 hours to do something that takes me 30 minutes. Something's wrong here. And so you have to have a daily or after their shift, some sort of accountability as far as if you, like I say, want to start simple, an email. What did you do and how long did it take? And I have we don't have time to get into the deep digging into it, but I have a specific method that I use where it tells me what task they did, how long it took, and did you have any issues? Because here's the thing, I'm Filipino, but I was born in the States, but I know that the Filipino people, they get really embarrassed when they don't know something and they're too scared to tell you. So you have to have it to where you have it open for them to ask you the question and not be embarrassed. If you don't know how to do this specific thing on the video, because they're scared they're going to either lose their job or you're going to think that they're not smart and then they feel, and so let them know, hey, we're new to this too. I don't even know how to use the software. Tell me what issues you're having. So you're going to have it in 3 steps. You're going to have it, what did you do? How long did it take you? Did you encounter any issues while you were doing this task? And if so, what were they? So that you know that you are, not just giving them tasks just to give them tasks. I mean, this is to make the reason why you outsource is to buy your time back and to, make your business grow. There is some, being noble about giving someone a job, but you want to do that and to see your business grow.
Sure.
And you're not going to see your business grow if they're just sitting there doing nothing. And just, like I say, that one example of 8 hours to do something that took me 30 minutes.
Yeah, your business has to be profitable to afford to hire more people.
Exactly.
So, I tell people all the time, I have a lot of loyalties. I have a loyalty to my family. I have a loyalty to myself. I have a loyalty to my business and a loyalty to my employees, which sometimes that can cross lines. And what I mean by that is I have a responsibility to keep my employees gainfully employed, make sure I don't, tank a business and, they're investing their time in working for, my company. So I need to make sure that I'm taking good care of them. But on the other hand, if I have an employee that is not benefiting the company, that's dragging down the company, that's causing drama or causing loss, then I have to weigh my responsibilities to the company and the other employees. Exactly. And sometimes we have to cut that out. So, that's something that I struggle with. I think that every business owner struggles with. And I would almost venture to say, particularly this type of business, because a lot of us that came into this e-commerce world, especially like the Amazon, type business, we didn't come from, or we're trying to escape from, a very structured corporate environment. So little things like HR is something that's relatively new to most of us. It's something that I've definitely struggled with in several companies that I've owned because, trying to balance, how do I take good care of my employees? How do I take good care of my company? How do I be a boss that people like? But then how do I be a boss that people respect? And, trying to balance all those different things. And I think that's tough, which leads me to one of my other questions that I have struggled with a lot in the past. And I'm kind of counting on you to shed some light, a little wisdom and experience here for me. How do you, especially with a VA that you don't get to see in your office, how do you gain trust in them where you can then delegate tasks that will affect your business?
What kind of tasks? Are you talking about like a course? Are you talking about PayPal? Are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm talking about all of it. So I've used VAs where I have to give them access to every account that I have. Hey, here's my PayPal account because they've got to integrate it with QuickBooks. And then, they've got to integrate it with all the emails. So they end up with kind of a lot of sensitive information, and not just how do I trust them with sensitive information, but how do I trust them to take care of my business? So let's say I was outsourcing a task like writing my listings. How do I know that they're actually taking the time to research the most, relevant keywords? And how do I trust them to the point where I don't have to go back and check every single step, because then there's no point in them, doing the work for me. I haven't outsourced it. I've just replicated work. So building trust, building that relationship. How do you go about doing that where you're not laying awake every night going, wow, did they crash my website? Or wow, have they screwed up a listing? Or wow, have they completely, run me out of inventory without warning me?
Yeah, I hear you. And that's a big, big question of why people don't outsource, is the trust issue. And so a couple of things. Number one, let's remember the culture of these people. They are not overall the entrepreneur like what you and I are, where we want to say, we're going to grow this thing big and be millionaires and all that. They're just kind of like, they're very simple people, which is amazing. They go to work, they do what they're supposed to do, and they want to go home and spend time with their kids, or go, and that's just how they are. And there's not, Fijians are like that. Fiji people, when I go to Mazatlan, Mexico, they're like that. They're just kind of like, I just want to do something that, they don't have the drive really. So they're not like, you have to kind of remember too, is like, they're not really here to take over who we are, honestly. Like I shouldn't say that out loud, like never, but I really haven't. I've never encountered this. But to start off with something like, here's a login to my course, that's one thing where you have to kind of say, ooh, I hope that they don't, do whatever. And basically, like with PayPal and such, I think the very biggest thing, like number one, is like what I just said, to realize that they're not entrepreneurial. They're not really here to get you. You know what I'm saying? Like there are people in the world like that. And I have been ripped off. I'm sure you have too, Tim, where people come in and just take what you have. Part of this whole process, I think, has to do with time and with the accountability issue of the daily report. For example, show me what you were doing when you were creating this listing. Okay. So when you first start with your outsourcing, you're probably going to have to be more involved with checking their work. Eventually, like right now, like the stuff that my people do, like I literally just got back from Dallas. And honestly, to be honest with you, I haven't looked at any of their daily reports, because I'm like, it is gone. I've known them long enough. I've checked their work long enough to know that. But it's a matter of really just doing it, like they have my PayPal account. They have my, they have my merchant account. But I'm just like, if they knew though, they know if even one thing can go wrong with the money issues, this is their livelihood,
Yeah.
It's just like here in the States and such. So I think that it's part of beginning that. It's just like getting married, right? Or dating somebody. It's kind of like, how do we trust somebody? And it's amount of like experience and, kind of going back and forth and deciding this is the person that I want to marry. And then once you're married, okay, like I've been married for 31 years. I know my husband's habits. I know everything that he does, everything. So just like that with your outsourcers, at the beginning, it's going to take some time. But here's the thing, just like you and I know, Tim, like in life and everything we do, especially business, we take risks every day.
You're right.
And we're risking a Filipino that we're paying, like I say, $8 a day. And we just have to, and we might just start with giving them small things. If we have that fear of like, ooh, I don't know if I'm ready to give my merchant account and my PayPal and this. Okay, how about start with giving them a course?
Yep.
And then start with giving them a listing or whatever and seeing how they do with that and go from there.
What I've determined is most people in life are good people, and most people in life want to do a good job at what they're doing. So if they sign up for a job, you're not holding a gun to their head and making them do that. I think that generally they want to do a good job. Of course, there's exceptions. And the other thing that you hit on is it's a business. Businesses are risky. And if we spend all of our time, and trust me, I'm preaching to the choir here. So I'll talk about me. If I spend all of my time worrying about what could happen, I'm never going to get to what could happen, right? Like I'm never going to go to this, try to reach for that ceiling. And I also had to learn that there's a lot of things in life that I'm just bad at. I'm just terrible at it. So if I can trust people to do, let's say 80% of what they can, 80% potential, that's still probably better than what I could be doing anyways. So there's no point in me having fear and worrying about, are they going to do the best job for me? Are they going to, keep me completely safe? We don't know. So I say do some due diligence, but ultimately if we're not taking risks and if we're not experimenting with different possibilities and if we're not allowing people to help us grow, then we're all going to be stuck, in our basement with a few boxes in the garage and never expanding our businesses. Yeah. And worrying. And there's so much in life that we could be worrying about that's just going to drag us down. And then the other thing that I have to think about is what's the worst that could happen?
That's
All right.
true.
What's the absolute worst that can happen? Now, there are some bad things that can happen, but generally speaking, the things that I worry about on a day-to-day basis, especially when it comes to delegating tasks of any type, the worst that can happen isn't that terrible. The worst that can happen can usually be fixed. It's something that I can usually remedy and take care of. So yeah, it's something that I'm definitely struggling with, is learning to let go, learning my weaknesses and my strengths, which will allow me more freedom mentally to outsource, especially my weaknesses, and then utilize my strengths to help my team members grow. That way, I'm building a relationship that's reciprocal. I'm not just taking their labor for money. They feel like, hey, they're attaching themselves to me, and any success that I have will be passed on to them. And that kind of leads me to, VAs are paid pretty inexpensively for our standards. For their standards, they're good jobs. Do you have any sort of incentive program in place? Do you give bonuses? Do you give gifts? Do you do anything like that?
Absolutely. And there's something right off the bat that you have to know when you hire virtual assistants. It's called the 13th month. It's something that happens at the end of the year. And, it's a matter of giving them an extra month of their salary. If you're paying them $300 a month, then know at the end of the year that you're going to pay $600 a month. I give all kinds of holiday, like if they have to go to or their kids play or they want to take off, because it's, their holidays are different. One thing that I'd recommend is, if you decide to hire a Filipino virtual assistant, is right off the bat, download, and you can Google it, what are the Philippines holidays, and you'll see it. That's one. Number two, what are my find out when their birthdays are. And their special occasions right off that's what I do. I say, when I'm interviewing them and I decide to hire them on, I give them a questionnaire sheet that says, basically, when is your anniversary? When is your birth dates? When are your kids' birth dates? So that I know in my head right off the bat, they're not going to ask you sometimes, they'll be embarrassed to say, oh, I've gotten to the point where I tell my virtual assistants, I'm sorry, it's hard for me to keep track of all holidays. If you have a holiday coming up, I have it here, but remind me. And they do, and I'll give them that off. Whenever they were putting together my event page for Simples on Seller, we were both up night and day on Skype, just trying to tweak and everything, because I had a deadline that I was trying to get out. And I gave them a bonus. And, it's everybody has their different ways. Like, I will give incentive. I know that some people have incentives that they work out with their virtual assistants. Maybe like one of my virtual assistants came up with a product idea that she said, hey, I have someone I know I can get this product from the Philippines for 50 cents and it's selling on Amazon for, 15 to 18. What do you think? So that just actually came up last week. And so I am going to put something in place to incentivize for her finding the lead. And maybe it would be, however I do it per item that sells, I'll make sure. I don't know on that how I'm going to do that, but I'm probably going to take that item because it's a good item. But I give bonuses when we have specific, like when I have something that's urgent and deadline and they're like not sleeping to get it done, definitely. And that's up to you how you want to do it. And they're very, very happy when you give them those, things. So extra tasks, maybe you feel like they did a great job. Every quarter, I kind of evaluate and feel like, wow, my business has grown. I'm going to bonus my virtual assistants. And here's the other thing that I will say, even if it's not money, like we're talking about money, but if you take the time, just like getting a thank you note in the mail means a lot to somebody, to just even thank them for their amazing work, it goes a long way. They're just like, oh, they're so happy to work for someone in the United States. That's something that if you're in the Philippines, like I have family there and they tell me, if you work for a United States company, your kind of status is like big deal. So, they're happy to work for you, but they're also happy to receive positive feedback from you, just like all of us need.
Yeah, we all need a little encouragement. So Joy, thank you so much for all the information. If you would tell the listeners kind of how to find you and some of the stuff that you offer. I've been on podcasts before and made the mistakes of not telling people how to even find me or what my services are. And then over the next week, I get 30 emails. Hey, Tim, great content. You sound like a smart dude. What do you do and how do I hire you? So first off, talk about the easiest way for people to connect with you and find you.
Perfect. Well, I am an active Facebook user and I do my best to do the direct message, private messages. And I I'm really good at answering that, I will say. So that's one way for you to reach out to me. Some other ways, I have a blog at joypacker.com. You can see me there, reach out to me there. I have a podcast. It's called Joy Reveals. It's on iTunes. It's on Stitcher. If you're on the Android phone, leave me a comment there. I also have a membership site. Basically, if people are interested, the event where basically we have a Simples on Seller event. It's coming up next April again. If you need more information about that, you can actually go to simplesonseller.com and see what we did this past April. It was incredible. And so basically, if you want to know more about, those are some ways that the best ways you can reach out to me are the ones I mentioned. And, I'm happy to help. I'm all about helping people. Yes, I do like to, do the things that I do, but my biggest passion is helping people and see them light up when they say, "Oh my goodness, like the other day, someone said, I hired my first virtual assistant. It's incredible. It makes me so happy." And so, those are the order or, some ways and things that I do that you can find me and connect with me.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, Joy, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And of course, guys, reach out to her on her blog, on her website, Simples on Seller. You have a Facebook group for that too, right?
That's actually, I have a free one for the conference attendees, and I have a paid one for the membership site people. Right now, we're actually in beta as far as we're building out the content. So it's very cheap to get in, and it's not just Amazon. It's Amazon. I call it, like exactly what we did at our event. We're going to be talking about all ways to make money online, and not to divert people, but more so not to have all your eggs in one basket. But the Simples on Seller membership.com is the site that we're going to be having that information on as far as, what I offer in there.
Okay. Sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Joy, for being on. And we'll go ahead and sign off now. And thank you, all the listeners and attendees, for listening in to the Legion Radio. Check us out on YouTube. You can look up my name, Tim Jordan, or look up Private Label Legion. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel with content constantly coming out. And check out the Facebook group, Private Label Legion, which is a rapidly growing community where we focus on all things e-commerce, but specifically about building brands and products that are not saturated, that are unique, that have demand, and that you can actually build a real business around. So, all right, that's all we've got. Thank you, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks, Tim.
You've just wrapped up another episode of Legion Radio, hosted by Tim Jordan. Past episodes, links, and show notes can be found at privatelabellegion.com.